All right, so I wanted to go over this real quick. I was on YouTube, I was on Facebook last night scrolling, and a guy had a question. He had tried to laser engrave a graphic onto a piece of acrylic, and his question was he had all these little dots show up, and he wanted to know what these dots were and what caused it. So I informed him of what caused it and how to fix it. And then, there were many other comments below that were saying, no, it's your air assist, and your laser's too hot, and you need to use masking tape. But in this case, that is not true. And I will show you how you can diagnose some of these problems to kind of figure out what's going on. So what gives it away in this photo is if you look under these letters, right, there is a little bit of a heat issue, but that's not the part of this video. That's not really what he was asking. He wanted to know what all these little dots were. So if you look under these letters, you have this really uniform shadow line. Then under here you have this really clean shadow line. And the shadow line's definitely coming from one direction. It looks like a very intentional thing. You got a shadow line right here, and under this, and it looks very intentional. Also, all these dots are very uniform. They're not gathering at one spot. So a lot of times when you have air assist issues, a lot of your problem will build up more in certain areas than in other areas. But if you looked at the whole graphic, these little dots are very uniform. They're thicker up here at the top, and then they dwindle off into very few. But what really gave this away, that it was indeed not splatter, is if you come up here, and this went around the whole entire graphic. So on his piece of acrylic, you could see it. But you have a perfectly straight line here, and a perfectly straight line there, and at the bottom, and on the left side. So you could see the framing window, and none of those dots went outside the framing window. So that tells me it absolutely was not splatter, because if it was splatter, it would not have followed the directions of this framing line. It would have just went wherever it wanted to go, because that's just the nature of splatter. So that was one of the main telltale signs that this is an issue that is indeed inside of my graphic. So I'm going to show you kind of how to fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. So now I have my graphic. This is a graphic drawn by Rich Powell. He is an artist out of Asheboro, North Carolina. He gave me the permission to use a few of his pictures, his ray gun pictures. I really wanted to do some cool graphics with them, and he would get the proceeds, or he would get a portion of what I made. The problem was I just never was good at selling things, so it didn't happen. But this is a perfect image for me to show you what's going on. So I'm going to do that. If you like his image, go check him out. He's a really nice guy, and he does some really cool art. So you can look him up, look up some of his work online. He does a lot of cartoon art. He's done stuff for newspapers, and I think a few drink companies, and a couple really neat magazines. So definitely go check them out. I did want to show you this though. This is just for a demonstration purpose. I would 100% ask you to be respectful and not reuse other people's work. This is just for a demonstration. So I am going to, if I want to work with this, right, the laser is going to pick up everything. This is an image at the moment, and on acrylic, for what I'm doing at the moment, I don't want to have it as an image, right? So I want to turn this into, I want to trace it first, right? Because I want to be able to clean all this up. So I'm going to right click. I did not mean to adjust image. Well, that's going to take a minute. Okay. I want to right click and I want to trace image. Okay, I'm going to let Lightburn do its thing. I'm not really going to mess with it. You can kind of mess with the cutoff and the threshold, but a lot of times Lightburn has it fairly dialed in for what you're going to want to use. So I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to give me a traced image, right? But the problem is all of these little tiny elements of this picture are still grouped together as one picture, and I need to change that. So I'm going to right click again. I'm going to come and ungroup it. So now I can come and I can individually select. Let me try that one more time. I'm going to come up here. Yeah, that's correct. There we go. And I can select individual pieces of the art and delete them as I see fit. One cool tool or feature of Lightburn is this selection box. So I can pull and drag down and to the left and get a red box. I can pull up into the, I can pull down into the right and get a red box. I can pull up into the right and get a red box. Or I can pull down into the left and get a green box. Or up into the left and get a green box. The difference in these boxes is what it's selecting. So let's do this just to see what happens. I'm going to try to select this area with the red box and see what happens. It left all of the gun and took most of this. Well, let's try to select this area now with the green box, and it erases the gun. So I don't want that. So with the green box, when you pull this down, anything over here, any part of this gun that overlaps that green box, so anything that green box touches, it's going to select. Anything at all that this green box touches is going to be deleted. With the red box, I can cross over lines as long as I don't completely surround a line. So look, I can cross over the gun and it only picks up these. Let's say I accidentally cross over this whole white area with the red and I'm trying to get a piece. Well, it's going to get rid of that whole white area. But as long as I only go over half of that white area, it's not going to remove the whole white area. But with the green one, it is completely different. Anything it touches, it's going to select. So using that, you can clean up a graphic very easily, very quickly. So I can go over here, I can select all these little pieces of space debris. It's a laser. I'm trying to come up with something stupid. Come over here and little particle dust. All these little elements can be snagged up really quick using that red box. if you use the green box, you have to be much more deliberate about what you're choosing. You can get bigger areas, but once you get closer to the graphic, you'll have to be kind of careful. That's why the red box is nice, because I don't have to be as careful. As long as I'm not fully going over a part of the graphic, it's not going to select it. So I just keep doing that over and over and over. And you know, you can clean up an image in about 5 minutes doing this. It's very quick. And let's say I get done, right? Then I can use this green box to select a lot of this bigger stuff and kind of knock it out of my way. And let's say I want to move his name over here, so I'm going to select it and move it over here. So that's kind of how you use that red and green box to clean up some of that debris that is in your graphic, that is showing up. That's why it's kind of important. You want to be very careful using images. I've always, since I started anyways, I will trace. The problem with the trace sometimes is if you look at, well, if you look at this name here, I traced it. So it was a very clean cut writing. Letters, when you trace letters, they end up much more rounded off and looking funny. So that is an issue. So sometimes you can come back and type those in with whatever font you want and make it look a little more clean cut. But it's kind of how you do it. It's very simple, and it saves time, but really that's kind of all I wanted to go over. After you get done, I always group it back together. So I'll just select it all, and then I'll group, and then now it's grouped. It's no longer separate into little pieces. So this is the framing window I was talking about at the first. So if I have a cup right here, and I'm trying to put this image on a cup, and I scale it down, and I stick it on the side of that cup, that imaginary cup that's in the middle of my screen, this box is my framing window. So if I go to fire the laser off, and if you're getting debris outside of that framing window, then it's probably something to do with your laser. But anything that you get inside of this framing window, if it doesn't leave the outside of this framing window, or if it leaves a extremely pronounced line where there is no dots outside that box, chances are you have something going on with your graphic itself. There are some other settings you can use, but for now that's kind of a very easy thing to do. That's how I usually fix the issue. If I have random spots, I automatically know that there was a little dot that I didn't get rid of, and the laser's firing on that dot. And if I'm running a cup, or I'm running a plate, or I'm running anything, and I have my graphic, but then I have this random little dot off in the outer space, then I know that there is something that I missed cleaning up. So these little specks right here, if I don't get those when I go to run the image, those little specks show up very, very pronounced. Anyways, that's all I got. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Ask me, and I will gladly make you a little video. All right, y'all take it easy.